I guess we could get started if you guys are good.
Yeah.
So I see we've got a couple of attendees. Just want to welcome you all to the Creatio Nimble webinar. So first of our webinar series as partners. Today we would like to go through the challenges that we're seeing in the financial services space and how you can stay ahead of this digital disruption and the value that no code, low code brings to the table, and how implementing a no code solution and really kind of focusing on the strategy and services around no code can help you achieve the business outcomes that you're looking for in the financial services industry and space. So I guess without further ado, I'll just introduce myself first. Everen Yilmazer, I'm a managing partner at Nimble, been in the no code, low code space for about 15 years, 25 years of experience, both working for product and product platform and consulting companies. Blair, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Blair Boylan. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Nimble. I've been all across kind of the product development side, from actually doing design of user experience to building the actual user experience to starting to lay out what is the strategy and how do we take that strategy, build those into requirements, and then follow through and the execution.
Erik?
Yeah, I'm hi everyone. I'm Erik Hale, Vice President of Sales here at Creatio, focusing specifically in the financial services vertical. Been with Creatio a little over 5 years, and have worked with our financial service customers globally on helping them define and execute strategy when it comes to automation.
So we could just skip to the agenda slide. So as I mentioned, we'll really kind of run through the industry market challenges, what we're seeing in the financial services space, talk about the potential risk, best practices for the future of financial services, also encompassing how no code plays a part in this, and then talk about the outcomes that we're looking to achieve. So roughly 45-minute webinar. So we'll run through this in 30 minutes. And then if you guys could save your questions to the end, there's the webinar chat or raise your hand. We'll have 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. With that, maybe I'll turn it over to you, Erik.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Everen. So as we dive into the presentation, it's important to kind of understand the industry challenges that financial service organizations are experiencing, and there are many. Of course, it's one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, so we see a lot of challenges from that perspective. But there are some common themes that we see amongst all financial service organizations, whether those are community banks and credit unions, the wealth management firms, to advisory firms. We are seeing some common challenges throughout the entire industry that each subsection of that is experiencing. And we're going to dive into those in a little more detail here. So the first thing that we've been having conversations around is increasing competition. No longer are you worried about your competitor that's across town or down the block from you. We see that there are many institutions that are getting into the financial services industry. So I don't know if anybody here on the call has the Apple card in their wallet, but you have organizations like Apple getting into the financial services game. In fact, the statistic on the screen here says that there are over 5,000 new startups starting to offer services, whether those are new services or traditional services within the financial services industry. So it's coming at them from all different directions, right? Like it's no longer just having to worry about your traditional players. If we think about, just in the banking industry, companies like Ally and Chime are outperforming, traditional tier 1 players like Wells Fargo and Citi. In fact, Chime has added more than 2 million customers, and they're adding more customers, per month than Wells Fargo and Citi, which is just amazing to think about, the amount of market share that these types of organizations are seeing. So this increasing competition is, also bringing to the table new services, right, that are attracting more customers, taking market share away from traditional players. So it's really, how do you stay ahead of them and outpace them, right? Not only are you being disrupted by them, but you also have to do disruption of your own. And I don't know, Blair, Everen, if that's what you're seeing with your customers as well, is that not only do they have to keep pace with them, but they also have to get out ahead of them as well. Oh, did I lose everyone?
No,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I think when we talk about the disruption of an industry, it's all about who's as the next, who's serving their customer, who's bringing up the most amount of value, and that's personalized for their customer. How do they make it more of a personalized experience so they feel the individualism of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And where, when I spent most of my career in financial services, and I guess back in the day, before, won't date myself here, but it was all about, let them focus on their business of financial services. And it was very clear segregation. Like, you'd bring in consultants that were really just pure technology players. But, as the times have evolved, financial services companies see themselves as tech companies, as do, other companies that weren't normally in that space. So I think we're seeing it more and more, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue, right, into our next challenge that financial service organizations are seeing. When we think about those new competitors entering the market space, it's really they're addressing some changing consumer behaviors as well, right? So traditionally, when you were managing your money, you had an advisor or a branch location that you would go into, and those days are gone, right? Like, it's no longer, you can just have those two channels and the way that you interact with your customers, right? Everybody wants that Amazon-like experience, right? If you think about, like, Amazon, I can go out, I can research products, I can compare them, I can compare reviews. I can, with a click of a button, have that product delivered to my house the same day, right? Like, so that's really the expectations that consumers have now in the way that we do everything, whether that's shopping, that's the way that we manage our money. We're expecting that experience. And in fact, if you're not providing that experience, you run the risk of your customers migrating, right? And, if we see, like, on the screen here, you're looking at the top 3 reasons customers say that they will, switch to some of these non-traditional players. It's lower costs, ease of use, and faster service. And I'd be willing to even argue with that first point of lower cost, because from my perspective, I'm actually willing to pay more money for ease of use and faster service. So it's something to consider in terms of, how you're interacting with those consumers and making sure that you're meeting those new types of expectations. And if we start to think about expectations, it's not only just on the consumer side, we also have our internal customers as well. When we think about, how we go to work and the tools that we expect to have at our disposal to service our customers, I'm in sales, been a long-time salesperson, and I expect, certain things when from my organization, a way to, keep track of my opportunities and leads, and how am I managing my forecasts and my funnel? How am I, getting prospect information? I have a set of modern tools that are available to me that I can't imagine, going to an organization and not having those tools available. If we think about it from, the financial services arena, the employee experience is, it's twofold, right? Like when you onboard a new employee, you're having to train them on, probably 20 different systems that they have to access just to manage different, applications. If you think about like how they onboard customers, open an account, any of those processes are very time consuming because they go across multiple, platforms, and they're very disconnected. In fact, that last bullet that you see on the screen there is kind of disturbing, that, workers will switch applications about 10 times an hour, wasting about an hour of productivity a day, right? And not only is it just wasting that time, but it's also, frustrating for them, as they have to go through those processes. And that frustration can sometimes then, turn towards that customer experience as well. So if they're managing a difficult interaction because they have to navigate multiple systems, that can actually lead to a poor customer experience as well. So it's really a challenge for most organizations to, give these tools to your employees so that way they have, a very unified workspace, and they're not having to go to search for information. They're not going to, toggle between applications, back and forth. And that's really where, from a Creatio perspective, we see, most organizations, struggling. It's really, you have these siloed teams, siloed systems, and it's very difficult to interact with, all of that customer data. And that really makes it, a poor experience for the employee that wants to, help those customers in an efficient manner, but yet can't do it.
Yeah, or I was going to say even worse, like use their own productivity tools that aren't enterprise grade, and their spreadsheets that don't communicate. So, that's a problem too. It's like multiple systems or just their own systems that they're building, which wouldn't be a problem as long as it was really connected to the enterprise.
Yeah. And they never are though, right? Like it's anytime you're operating off of spreadsheets, it's it's never a good scenario. And also, you think about it from like a training perspective, just not only the employee experience, but also like, how do you onboard these new employees, right? If you're having to train, and then, if you had employee turnover, and you're bringing on new employees to replace, well, there's always that time to orient, the time to competency, that's going to take time. But once they're up and running, how are they interacting with that as well? So it's something that you have to consider. It's a challenge, and those that are taking that into consideration, we're all focused on providing the best customer experience that we can, but I think we're remiss if we don't take a look at that employee experience as well.